So I just completed my second Alaskan cruise, and while it's still fresh on my mind, I want to give all of you some advice on the last frontier, as I sit here back at home in extremely hot Florida wearing this silly winter hat and possibly no pants. An Alaskan cruise is a vacation and experience unlike any other. For many, it is the trip of a lifetime, as you will see and do things that you've probably only seen in movies. An Alaskan cruise is honestly magical and life-changing if done right. As of right now, I have currently taken 2 Alaskan cruises, one last year on Royal Caribbean's Ovation of the Seas, and just a couple days ago, I disembarked Carnival's newest Italian hybrid Costa, formerly Costa ship, the Luminosa. Both experiences were very different, and I've also been to Alaska on 3 other occasions outside of cruising. So today, I'm going to tell you 10 things you need to avoid when taking an Alaskan cruise. Number 1, don't pick the wrong cruise line. Contrary to popular belief, I do believe the cruise line, the ship that you were sailing with, are very, very important. This is something that I've learned from not only sailing to Alaska, but also sailing to Antarctica earlier this year. There are a lot of cruisers, experienced cruisers at that, that will tell you if you go to these popular, rare, and exotic destinations, that you don't necessarily go for the ship. You go for the experience of what it is. In this case, it would be Alaska. That is partly true, as I have recently learned that it does indeed matter, as I believe the two, as far as the cruise ship experience, the onboard experience, and the experience outside of it, kind of coexist with one another. And if one is off, well, the other one could also potentially be ruined in the form of spending too much money or just having overall a bad experience. One thing you have to do is, first of all, just do your research and understand what it is exactly it is that you want. Just to give you an example, I don't think I'd ever go on a cruise to Alaska with like a Virgin Voyages. As much as I love Virgin, they're one of my favorite lines, their ships aren't exactly built for you to actually have an outside viewing area. And for the spaces that are available, if the whole ship decided to go onto the top deck to try to get a good view of all the mountains and the water and the whales, well, you'd probably be out of luck if you didn't get there first thing in the morning to claim your spot for the entire day. I always say that every single cruise line offers something that the other does not. Do you want to go to a luxury cruise line? Do you want to go premium? Do you want hot cocoa and more of an immersive experience? Well, depending on which line you decide to choose will determine your overall experience. And this all does come down to, of course, opinion and preference. Now, one thing you also have to pay attention to when picking the line and ship that you're going to be sailing on is to, of course, choose the itinerary. Most of the time when ships go over to Alaska, usually they are there all day. But it is, of course, determined by your exact ship. For example, when I went on Royal Caribbean's Ovation of the Seas last year, every port from Skagway to Juneau, we were there pretty much the entire day. However, when I was on board the Carnival Luminosa, unfortunately, after the last port in Skagway, where we stayed there for a whole 12 hours, every other port after that was either a tender port in which we had to get in a lifeboat and be taken over to the docking area, and then we'd stay there for the rest of those ports anywhere between 3 to 4 hours, which can be disappointing and it can ruin your experience for a lot of people because unfortunately you may not have the time to do what it is that you want to do. Number 2, do your research. Do your own due diligence when it comes to your Alaskan cruise to find out exactly what it is that you want. Obviously, you guys know I do reviews, I do tips and all that stuff, and I'm very transparent about it. Many people don't believe I'm telling the truth a lot of the time because I'm overly transparent and honest, but it is what it is. But I would always advise all of you, don't just watch my videos, go watch multiple videos, and then from there, you can get an idea of what you want, and then also do your own research to see what it is that you want. Like I said, do you want to sell luxury? Do you want to do premium? Are you going with Holland America? I heard they're really great for Alaskan cruises, same with Princess. Are you going to sail on the Carnival Spirit as opposed to the Luminosa? You have tons and tons of options, whether you're choosing the ship that you're sailing on, to the cabin, to the itinerary that you want, to the excursions that you're going to be doing, whether you are in Skagway, Ketchikan, Juneau. Do you want to do whale watching? Juneau's good for it. Do you want to do the helicopter tour? Skagway is good for it. You have to look at all of these options. Why? Because an Alaskan cruise is not much like a Caribbean cruise. Over there, you can kind of, well, wing it. I know I do a lot when I go to places like Cozumel and Nassau. I just kind of figure it out along the way. Going to Alaska, understand first of all, an Alaskan cruise is going to cost you, on average, a lot more money than a typical cruise sailing out of Miami, Port Canaveral, or Fort Lauderdale. Which is why, again, you should do your research that you don't waste that money or that opportunity to have a great experience. Number 3, do not wait or hesitate to book your shore excursions for your Alaskan cruise. These excursions, especially if you're booking on a ship, sell out very quickly. My theory for this happening is because for a lot of people, Many are doing an Alaskan cruise for the first time ever, and it might be their only time doing this experience. And Alaskan cruises are very expensive, and a lot of people are going to go where they are going to see some familiarity, meaning they're going to book with the cruise line because it's not like a typical Caribbean cruise where you can, again, just kind of wing it and do what it is that you want. People are spending big money, and they want to make sure they're having the best experience possible. A true form of cruising where it's hassle free and they don't have to worry about all the little giblets and stresses. Now, again, like I said with the research, there are a lot of options to book your cruises. You can look at the companies online as far as excursion options. I like to go with Viator from time to time. I would suggest, again, the research category too, you guys do compare your prices, because I will say that excursions for Alaska are among some of the most expensive excursions that you are going to pay for. So you want to make sure you find the best option that is within your price range. And also, of course, you want to make sure you're getting the experience. So look at the prices, but also, of course, look at the reviews. All this is very, very important. Like I said, just don't wait. Do it as soon as you realize you're going on an Alaskan cruise. Whoa, this thing is getting hot. It was a bad idea. Number 4, do not overpack. I'm somebody that is guilty of this. Thankfully, I have a girlfriend that is a professional packer for traveling, and she's giving me all the tips, and I'm doing a little bit better. But here's the deal. For people that are from, let's say, a warmer climate and they're going to a colder climate like Alaska, I understand the urge to say, you know what, I want to be as warm as possible. So I'm taking all 20 of my jackets, all 40 of my scarves, and my warmers, and my long johns, and everything else in between. But something I learned in Antarctica when I was there earlier this year is that you can actually get to the point to where you are so hot because you've laid yourself up too much to the point to where you start sweating, and that's when people get sick. And obviously with the water, the liquid that is now flowing around your body, it's not a very comfortable situation whether you are cold or not. So you want to get the right amount of materials on your body and use whatever you see fit. Do your research to understand what exactly it is that you're going to be needing for that type of temperature, because you're also going to have the added fact that even if you guys are going on a cruise to the Caribbean, I know a lot of people out there are going to say, well, I need this, I gotta bring my 5 pairs of jeans and my 10 socks and my 3 pairs of shoes, and well, it turns into a giant mess. So just word of advice, I'd always say, like, whenever you pack your bag, double check your bag. Maybe take everything out. It's something I do. Maybe it's a little weird, but I always go back and review and ask myself, do I really need this, and this? Because you want to bring as little amount of things as possible, because you're probably going to collect some trinkets and some memorabilia while you're over in Alaska. Number 6, this one may rile some of you out there up, but do not pick an inside cabin. Now, I know, everybody calm down. Woosah. I understand everybody is on their own separate budgets and their own preferences and opinions of how they feel about whether they are going to spend their money on an excursion or whether they're going to spend their money on drinks or what have you when it comes to their cruise experience. It is obviously your prerogative, your choice, your decision on what cabin you pick. However, I would say if it is within your budget and you're somebody that likes the scenery, for an Alaskan cruise, it would be probably better for you to book a balcony cabin. Why? Because even when you're in the Caribbean, there is nothing like waking up if you don't have a hangover and pulling into the port and seeing all the pretty stuff and actually being someplace and waking up to a new part of the world that you potentially have never seen before. It is absolutely breathtaking. And let's say, for example, you're on a ship where the entire ship is on the top deck and you cannot find a spot to get a good view. Maybe you're on the right side of the ship, whether it be port or starboard, where you can get that perfect, uninterrupted, private view and you can truly enjoy that experience in time. Number 7, booking an early post-cruise flight. Now, this is something that I have seen on many occasions, and even on my last Alaskan cruise I just embarked a couple days ago, there were a lot of people that ended up missing their flight. Why? Because Alaska is not like the Caribbean. I would argue Alaska is similar to going over to Antarctica. The weather can be extremely unpredictable. One minute it could be raining, then it could be snowing, and then it could be rough seas, and then it could be calm, and well, you get the idea. And when things like that happen, it can drastically change the outcome of the port times. A lot of the times in port, whether you be in Ketchikan or Juneau or even going back to your home port, could be changed drastically from an hour to even a couple hours. Let's say in theory the ship was supposed to return back to the home port over in Seattle at 6:30 and your flight was at 9 o'clock or 8:30 or something like that, and there's a delay by an hour or two. Well, you've just missed your flight, and let's hope you either have travel insurance or you bought a flexible ticket in the event that something like this should have happened. To keep it simple, I would just say book a flight anytime after 11 or noon just to be safe. It's okay to wait at the airport for an hour or two, and a lot of people want to avoid that. I get it, but better safe than sorry in these types of situations. Number 8, don't be too organized. Now, like I said earlier in the video, it is okay. You should do your research and due diligence and as much planning as possible prior to your cruise so that you can have the best experience possible. However, you don't want to, I want to say how we used to say when I was a dancer for theme parks and cruise ships, whenever we'd make some choreography and we knew things were subject to change and probably will change, we would say, don't marry this choreography. Don't marry your plans for Alaska because, like I said, with the unpredictable weather, things could change at any point in time. And if you are, let's say, a micromanager and you end up getting to the port an hour late, well, guess what? Now things have changed and now you're stressing out and growing a pimple or something like that or popping a blood vessel. You don't want to do it. So just, of course, just understand, like I said, with things changing over in Alaska, like the weather and, of course, maybe the excursions, you just have to kind of go with the flow and plan to the best of your ability, but be flexible and adaptable. Number 9, here's a random one for you. Bring some binoculars or buy some on board the ship. Believe it or not, over in Alaska, we are sailing pretty close to land oftentimes, and really wherever you go, you're going to see amazing animals almost every single day, like whales and eagles, and they could be, let's say, a couple yards away, and if you have binoculars, it's going to make that experience that much better. I have some here at home. However, when I got on the ship, unfortunately, I didn't bring them this time. I immediately regret not bringing my binoculars. I was almost tempted to buy some more $300 binoculars, but thankfully, I decided to kind of push back and not let myself fall into temptation. But I would just say, guys, bring some binoculars if you can. You might look like a nerd while you have them around your neck, but I promise you, it will be in your best interest. Finally, for number 10, we have the most important thing to avoid, in my personal opinion, when it comes to an Alaskan cruise. Well, I would argue any cruise for that matter. And that is, you want to avoid sailing with the wrong people. Why? Because obviously the people that you are with are going to dictate to some degree your experience that you have. I know a lot of people go on a cruise with their family and friends and loved ones that they may not necessarily get along with. And part of you may think, hey, we're on vacation. We're all here to have fun. That's exactly what we're going to do. Some people even try to rekindle the old flames in relationships and thinking it's going to mend and fix their relationships and marriages. And well, that couldn't be any further from the truth in some circumstances, as I have seen on board cruise ships. A lot of people, as I would always say, whenever they get on a ship, they tend to leave their brain in the car and just kind of go on autopilot and vacation. And I would say that when it comes to, let's say, a vacation or your birthday, it is one of the most sensitive times for you. You want to just relax, enjoy yourself, not think about too much, and forget about the stresses of reality. Understandable. So that means potentially one little thing could set you off. And I've seen arguments. I've seen, unfortunately, domestic violence situations, as many of you know, my last cruise that took place. And well, it's just not a good situation. I would just say in general, guys, be very, very wary about who you cruise with on a cruise, especially to Alaska. Well, now that we've stumbled through that video, let me know what you think about this video. Did you find it helpful at all? Do you think my points that I brought up are valid? Do you think I'm wrong in certain situations? I know some of you are going to say I'm wrong when it comes to the balcony thing. I completely understand. That's why I said, don't just watch my video, go watch others, and I try to be as objective as possible. Of course, hit that like button on your way out, subscribe if you haven't already, and know, as usual, I love each and every one of you. I'll see you later. Take it easy. Whew. That was a hot one.